because, okay, it's Tourette Syndrome Awareness Month, so I need to make you aware of something that has to do with Tourette syndrome. So I'm going to keep this brief, but this is super important. And I want to validate you a little bit and just send you in the right direction if you have not yet gotten a Tourette syndrome diagnosis for you or your child. So I got this paper yesterday, and it came from Ellie's school, and it basically is the paper that says standardized testing's coming up. So you know what that means. Ellie's going to go in a separate room, and she's going to take the test, just her and an adult, like a counselor or another teacher. She goes to a separate room by herself. Why is that? So her Tourette syndrome, obviously, she's got vocal and motor tics. So when there's a scenario where she needs to be quiet, and it needs to be like a really, like, it's like a really serious time, people need to be able to concentrate. That's not going to work, is it? I mean, sometimes it does. She doesn't always have tics. She doesn't have tics all day long, but they're there. And then there's this phenomenon with tic disorders where, like, if you're supposed to be quiet, that's probably when your tics will get even worse. So, like, just the thought and the pressure of needing to be quiet will ramp them up anyway, I'm sure. So that's why she goes to a different room, so that she doesn't have the pressure of, like, being quiet and not having tics, which is going to suppress them, which is going to make them worse or create a tic attack later. And also just out of respect for the other students during their standardized testing. Because, if she's clearing her throat every couple seconds or sniffing or doing her little like little sounds that she makes, that's not quite fair to them in this type of scenario. Now, if we were in a coffee shop or a grocery store or something like that and she was making those sounds, it's like, whatever, you're in public and there's no pressure, there's no testing, there's no assessment being done. But I thought to myself, in your heart, most of the time, if go online, you do enough research, whether or not you or your child has Tourette syndrome. You don't really need the diagnosis to validate what you know is true. I mean, when we looked at all the criteria when we suspected 2 years ago that she had Tourette syndrome, I looked at it and I'm like, well, I already know she has it. Like, I don't need a doctor to say, yes, that is what it is, because that is what it is. Fit all the criteria to a T. She had been having tics since she was 1.5. Come on. Like, I already knew. I was like, yeah, we're past. It's like, I think some of the criteria is like motor or vocal, or a combination of vocal and motor tics for, like, past the year point that has to be consistent. And I'm like, we're so many years into this by now. It's just a no-brainer. But I don't need the diagnosis for validation. But hear me out. It is important to seek one out for two different reasons if you have a child with Tourette syndrome. Number one, we have a 504 plan. That is a plan that it's a legal protection that says, like, she can't be discriminated against or et cetera, because of her neurological disability. So she's going to have to get a little bit of special treatment in order for her to get an equal and fair education, right there along with everybody else. With these standardized tests and stuff, that's going to mean if she needs to go to a different room, she needs to go to a different room. So there are 504 plans and IEP. To be honest with you, I'm not sure what the differences are, and you can Google it or you can talk to the school. But I just decided alongside the school, 504 was fine. It covered everything that she needed. And basically, there are just these specific accommodations, especially like the testing, that Ellie gets to have so that she can have an equal and fair educational environment and opportunity. So that's super important. And again, just say IEP, 504, what's the difference? Do that research accordingly, but 504 works for us. And she's got a couple other accommodations listed with it. And, like, one of them is like, she gets to sit next to her friends. Like, if she's sitting next to someone who is kind of harassing her or just poking at her and pushing her and pushing her and pushing her buttons, her tics will get so bad. They will get out of control. She can't handle it. She's just a little girl, and I know that some people might think, like, that's special treatment, but, like, is it though? If you have a neurological disability that causes you to do things you can't control? I don't think so. I think that evens things out, honestly. I think it's only fair. So anyway, so there's that. So the 504 plan. The second reason, I'm only going to list two today. I'm sure there's a bazillion more. The second reason is I don't know if it's the American Disabilities Act or the American Disability Act, but the ADA, I will link it below in the caption. You want to have that behind you. Let's say that you're in a grocery store and your child is having vocal and or motor tics, and it's a little disruptive, okay? You don't want somebody to say, you got to get out of the store. This is bothering the other patrons, when really you need to get in and out of the grocery store. You need food, you need household things, you need these items. You deserve to be there just as much as anybody else. But what if you're discriminated against, your child's discriminated against, and they're like, you got to go, this is too loud, you need to get out of here. That act, that legal protection says you cannot kick somebody out for that. This is the thank God, and thank God the Tourette syndrome, thank God that Tourette syndrome is covered under the American Disability Act, because it's neurological and involuntary. It appears so behavioral. This is the major issue that people have with Tourette syndrome, especially little kids. It's like they just look like they're acting out and they're not, and that makes it very difficult in public situations. It's already a chore to explain that Ellie doesn't want to make these sounds and she doesn't want to make these gestures and these faces. She doesn't want to do that. It looks so behavioral. I get it, whatever. But that's why you want to have this in place. So if you get the diagnosis, you have this official piece of paper from a doctor, from a medical professional that says, this is a diagnosis. It's covered, and which then in turn means it's covered under this legal protection. A lot of people carry around a card with them. You can request this card. It basically says, I have Tourette syndrome. It is neurological and involuntary. I cannot control the way that I'm acting. You can request one of those either physical and or digital cards from the Tourette Association of America. Go to their website. I don't know if they're still offering the physical ones, but I know that you can literally download and print one out. And, when it comes down to it, as long as you have that diagnosis somewhere, you can make sure. And we've got ours. I think I've got mine like scanned in, I don't know, Google Drive, or I've got it somewhere, but I've got it just in case, because we just don't, if I'm in the grocery store and she's doing something and it's bothering people, we deserve to be there just as much as anybody else. And thankfully, we do live in a small town where most people already know about Ellie's diagnosis, but this is not the case for everybody. So when it comes down to it, try to get the diagnosis. The way that we did was I made an appointment with her pediatrician. I said, you need to look at these videos. She's got Tourette syndrome, or she's got a tic disorder. I had a bunch of videos that I had recorded of Ellie, and I showed them to her. And then we were in there and she goes, oh yeah, there's definitely a tic disorder of sorts there, but we got to send you to a pediatric neurologist for the official diagnosis. So we had that appointment. We're waiting. And I said, her appointment is like in September and school starts in August. And so I called them. I said, look, emergency. Like, she's screaming at the top of her lungs as one of her tics. I can't send her to school like this. What is she going to just miss like a month of school because she doesn't have this legal protection in place? We can't get the 504 plan. So it really does matter. We did a we did a virtual appointment for the pediatric neurologist. She right away was like, yeah, that's Tourette syndrome. Like I said, you don't need this for validation. If you have it, if your child has it for the most part. As long as that criteria is really matching up, it's clear as day. It's pretty easy to diagnose this, I would say. But you still got to get that. If you want these two, and there's more, there's a million more reasons, but if you want the 504 plan, okay, and you want that legal protection in place by the American Disability Act, you got to get the diagnosis. So I know it's hard. I know it's rough. I wish you the best. I hope you get the diagnosis that you need. Keep trucking forward. I know that this is difficult. It's so not easy. The sitting and explaining to people, like, I swear to God, she doesn't want to be doing this, that she doesn't want this negative tension. It's exhausting. I understand how you feel, but do your best. Try to get the diagnosis. Visit TouretteAssociationofAmerica.org or TAA.org maybe. I'm not really sure. Wait, what am I always going to tell you? Google it, because I probably don't have the perfect answers, the specific answers all the time, but try to get that digital card, print it out, bring it with you everywhere you go. Stay protected legally, because this is tough. This is a tough one. People, because they can't see things that are neurological, sometimes it's hard for them to believe it, but we know it's real, right? We know it's real. We got to have our own backs. We got to have our kids' back. So I wish you luck. Hope you get the diagnosis, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.